The Wonderful World of Scary Ass Shit by Vaughn Ashby. Narrated by Sarah Vine. The Trekhead stared at Dahlia as she leaned back into her desk chair. Finally, she was done editing her latest episode. She'd always been into radio when she was a kid. She even wanted to go to school for it, but as technology progressed, jobs doing the type of thing she was into seemed to be less and less of a thing. She loved spending time digging into something. Ideally, she'd pick a story and spend the week researching and writing it, and then spend the weekend recording and editing. But that never happened. The program she wanted to take had limited space for people who needed financial aid, like herself. So, she did what everyone else she knew did when they finished school. She got a job at the grocery store. Her friends and family tried to reassure her that it was a good thing. They told her she had a face and a body, and as one creepy uncle liked to point out, for TV. They encouraged her to go out for modeling gigs, but that didn't interest her. She wanted to write, research, record, and edit, nothing else. Then, as if by cosmic intervention, she met a boy. He said his name was Nathan, but his friends called him Nate. He sold paper, was into the strange and weird, and thought she was beautiful. They went on a date that night. He told her all about how he was into this website called the Aurora Wasteland. Basically, a place for people to go to post about paranormal or supernatural things they encountered or did research on. Research! From that moment on, Dahlia was hooked. She'd never realized how much strangeness there was in the world just outside her front door. Since that date with Nate, Dahlia started her own podcast, Aurora Save the People, a documentary-style series about the events that happened in the Aurora Wasteland. She'd moved out of her parents' place and moved into her own apartment, started exerting and dressing as a sexy goddess she always wanted to be. Thanks to the popularity of her podcast, she was able to upgrade her equipment and her apartment several times over now. While there were other Aurora Wasteland podcasts, hers were considered the best. Not the flashiest or the fluffiest, but the best researched, written, edited, and produced. Dahlia saved the episode she was working on and started the export process. It would take an hour or so for the computer to compile everything for her to publish. The episode was about a man named Smith and his little adventures in the town called Barhead. She titled it The Reoccurring Man and was sure it would be popular. Everything she put out was reaching more and more people each time. She'd passed 1 million subscribers over a month ago. Around that time, her and her then partner called it splits, both sexually and professionally, though their friendship continued on. In fact, as Dahlia glanced at the time in the corner of her computer monitor, she realized how late he was. Patty was supposed to stop by hours ago to pick up some of his equipment. He hadn't shown yet, and he was normally an on-time kind of guy. Dahlia glanced around for her phone on her desk. Things often got lost under piles of paper she assimilated with each new episode. She was an analog girl in that sense, digital to the max in every other way. After failing to find her phone on her desk, she got up and checked her bedside table, only to come up empty. Then she remembered the dirty picture she sent her friend after she'd gotten up, and vaguely remembered leaving her phone in the bathroom. After grabbing a cup of coffee on her way, Dahlia found her phone, dangerously close and a gentle breeze away from falling in the toilet. The phone buzzed an inch closer to the edge of oblivion when Dahlia grabbed it. She tapped the reply to the dirty picture she'd taken and sent from the very spot she was standing in now, only minus most of her clothes, of course. It was from Nathan, or Nate as she liked to call him, another Aurora Wasteland explorer. She'd met him on the website where she used him as a source of information for her Tentacle Cat episode. After the interview, they started talking more personally, which led to a date where they didn't match personally but tried sexually anyway because, as Dahlia liked to say, she had to bite that ass. After which, they transitioned their relationship to him being a professional resource and her being his fuck buddy. It worked out well for both of them. The message from Nate was short, which made sense given they knew the code between them. Either of them would send the other an adult picture, and the recipient would reply with a simple emoticon. Nate's reply was a thumbs up, which meant he'd be over tonight. Dahlia tapped her next message. It was from her friend Val, and was a picture of her current top unzipped to show her current bra and her current cleavage. Shit! Dahlia kind of regretted sending Nate a message before she saw this one from Val. She wondered if she could get the two to stop by at the same time, but given their work situation, she thought it best to not even try. Plus, she was sure neither of them knew the other was rolling around in Dahlia's sheets regularly. As Dahlia's finger hovered over her emotional response, there was a knock at her door. She obviously wasn't expecting anyone until later that night, and getting into the building without getting buzzed in was pretty hard. There was a second knock at the door, harder this time. Dahlia checked her outfit in the bathroom mirror, which for homeware had a devastatingly low, deep V-cut. Her hair looked on point as fuck since she'd changed to her shaved sides while keeping it long on the top. A third knock at the door startled her out of her mirror checkout. She crossed her apartment and grabbed her tablet, then pulled up the app that let her see outside her door. Two men stood awkwardly waiting. The way they were standing gave away exactly who they were. Dahlia placed her tablet down and pulled her deep V closed a little. As a kid, her parents had taught her how to interact with law enforcement. Not everyone of every color was treated the same. She'd always found it completely unfair even to this day. She complained about it often, especially during her podcasts. But now, with it knocking at her door, she had to play by the rules that society was currently running on, no matter how stupid they were. "What do you want?" as she placed her hands on the lock and knob. "You Dahlia?" one of the men asked. "What do you want?" Dahlia replied. She could feel her pulse rate increasing. "You need a warrant to..." "Are you Dahlia?" the other man asked. "Yeah, but can we come in?" "Please," the first cop said, his tone more somber than she expected. "What's this about?" "Do you know a Patrick? Can we come in? I'd rather not do this through a door." Dahlia turned the knob and let the door open until the chain lock caught it once it was opened a few inches. "Patrick, what about him? Did he trespass again? Let me get my wallet, I'll bail him out. How many times do I have to? He's dead. Can we come in?" Dahlia said nothing as she unlocked the door and let it open behind her. As she crossed into the kitchen and rummaged through her junk drawer for a packet of cigarettes she kept for situations like this. She pulled one out and lit it as the two police officers followed her in. They were talking, but it was just background noise. Images and moments with Patty played through her mind like an old home video recording. Their first time together, their work together, their lives together. She thought he might have been the one at a certain point. But, "You okay?" one of the cops asked. He was shorter with a shaved head, and, well, look at that, he was black too. That was uncommon. "How'd he die?" Dahlia asked. "Painfully," the other cop replied. His mustache and horn-rimmed glasses made him look way more like a cop than the other. "What are you doing?" the first cop said. "She's a suspect." "I guess, but come on, man." The officer paused and stuck his hand out for Dahlia to shake. "I'm Detective Lamorne, and this dickbag of poor manners is Irving." Dahlia stared at his hand but ignored it and took a long drag of her cigarette. "You think it was human? That killed him?" Irving, the horn-rimmed glasses detective, asked. "Yeah, any teeth marks, claw marks, penis marks? There had to be something. We can't..." "Penis marks?" Lamorne asked as he stumbled on the words. Dahlia shrugged. "Well?" "Yeah, we can't tell you. Plus, why would there be... You know what? It doesn't matter." "We know he was working with you," Irving added, "with your podcast about weird, freaky-deaky stuff. Maybe he found the wrong person. Can you tell us what he was working on?" "No," Dahlia said as she let a lungful of smoke out. "No?" Lamorne asked. "Any reason why not?" "I know how this works. I give you what he's working on, and you don't like it, and you think I'm messing with you. Which leads you back here in a few days, for me. Then I get accused, and that's not gonna happen." "I'd like to say I believe you, but I don't." "We could arrest you now," Irving interjected. "You know, speed the whole thing up." "That's not helpful," Lamorne said as he gave his partner a dirty look that both said, "Be cool" and "Shut up." "Listen, we don't think you're a suspect at all. You don't fit the MO of what we're looking for. Please, if you can help, that would be wonderful. Otherwise, we can walk out the door and we'll never come back. But you'd be doing your friend Patrick a disservice. Whoever or whatever killed him is still out there and..." "Whatever?" Dahlia interrupted. "You said whatever. That means you don't think it's human." "Well, I never said that, but..." "Give me 10 minutes, Dahlia said as she finished her cigarette and lit a new one. "There's day-old coffee, help yourselves. Don't touch anything else, even the couch. I don't want your police stink all over it." With her cigarette between her lips and the thought of Patty on her mind, Dahlia sat down at her desk and minimized her editing software. It was still rendering her episode. She pulled up the Aurora Wasteland website, her emails from Patty, and private file share that was used just for the two of them. It didn't take long for her to find out what Patty had been working on. It was the reason they'd split, but she just needed to make sure he was still working on it. It was that story about him and his friends when they were younger. Something had happened to a kid they hung out with. Patty had always been vague about what exactly had happened, but that seemed like part of the story, part of the mystery. All the posts on the website were made anonymous and posted under the username Vaughn Ashby, a long-dead, failed Canadian sci-fi horror writer. He had done nothing with the website, but the website founders had liked his books and wanted to honor him in some way. So, they made every website post appear as if it was his. The anonymity of the posts was a blessing for all involved, though now as people like her branched out from the site and posted in more public places using their own names and faces, the anonymity of it all was fading. Dahlia knew how to find Patty's posts, even if they were all anonymized. He'd always purposely use certain keywords no one else ever used in their posts, like he refers to non-Aurora Wasteland believers as mug-files, a combination of muggles from Harry Potter and file from, well, X-Files. He loved both properties and used the term in every post. Dahlia searched for it and found he had posted the night before. She was right, it was about his friends. Though he used different names for them, she still knew exactly who they were. Patty had been looking into what happened to them for as long as she knew him. Dahlia leaned back and dragged the files she was comfortable sharing onto a USB stick for the cops in the other room, a combination of shitposts and her own and Patty's work. She twiddled the cigarette in her fingers and wondered what Patty could have done to get himself dead while looking into his friends. Did he have a bad run-in with one of them? Or did he figure out what had happened to them back when they were kids? It's been 5 minutes, and your coffee tastes, well, not bad, actually, for day-old coffee. What kind is it? Dahlia pulled the USB stick from her computer and threw it at Lamorne, cutting him off. The stick hit him in the face and dropped onto the floor. Dahlia laughed and stared at him. This is what we need? Yeah, the case he was working on, the real names of his friends, all of it. Now get out. Thank you, Lamorne said as he bent down to pick up the USB stick. Dahlia caught him, checking out her legs. Get out, she said as she leaned down closer to him. Don't come back, ever. Dahlia said as she sounded out every letter and ever, slowly and carefully. Okay, Lamorne said as he got to his feet, threw Dahlia a half, I'm sorry your friend is dead smile, gathered Irving, who had been on her couch, and then found his way out of her apartment. At the click of the door, tears streamed down Dahlia's face, but she ignored them. Patty was dead, and the cops were going to be no help at all. She didn't blame them. This was outside their level of acceptance. The strange and the weird of the Aurora Wasteland wasn't for everyone, but it was for her, and it had been for Patty. She was going to figure out exactly what happened. She opened her files again. She'd given the cops only a fraction of what she'd found, mostly just the names and locations of his friends. Bringing people in for questioning about a murder wasn't something she was capable of doing, so she'd leave it for them. When they were done, she'd get the records. The USB stick had a back door built into it. The cop would plug it into his computer, then she'd own it. Or rather, her friend would. She'd know what they knew. For now, she'd dig into everything else she knew about Patty and what he was working on. Except, something caught her eye. A live stream link on the Aurora Wasteland website. That never happened. Something was happening, something big. Dahlia pulled up the post related to the live stream. There was an Aurora Wasteland team hunting a creature right now. A creature that murdered a few people last night, and the teams have been hunting it ever since. Dahlia checked the locations in the post, then pulled up the geodata related to Patty's last post. The two overlapped. Had Patty been one of the people murdered by whatever this team was hunting? With the cigarette hanging from her lips, Dahlia cracked her fingers and got to work.
Hey, my name is Vaughn Ashby. I wrote this. If you liked what you heard, head on over to vaughnashby.com/free and pick up a free novel or a bunch of other free stuff. Go explore the Aurora Wasteland yourself at aurorawasteland.com. Don't forget to check out the Stories from the Wasteland podcast and search for Vaughn Ashby on YouTube for video versions and other exciting videos. Thanks for listening.